No alien prince stepped forward, until a human chose the princess. The Andromeda Coalition had long been known for its traditions, ancient and intricate, stretching across hundreds of star systems. Among these traditions, one stood above all others: the Millennium Tournament. Every 1,000 years, the young princess of the Cyrenian Empire, the most technologically advanced and culturally rich world in the coalition, was to choose a mate. This was not a decision of politics alone. It was a demonstration of skill, intelligence, courage, and character. Generations of alien princes had arrived, each hoping to earn the right to stand beside the princess. Yet history had shown that only a few could endure the trials. Princess Lyra had grown up in the heart of Cyrenia's capital, a city of glittering spires and floating platforms, where the sky shimmered with the light of multiple suns. She had been educated in strategy, diplomacy, and science, taught to observe the world carefully and make decisions with wisdom rather than impulse. Lyra had long known that when the Millennium Tournament came, she would not simply accept a suitor who relied on heritage or wealth. She sought a partner who could truly rise to any challenge, one whose mind, courage, and heart matched her own. This year, the tournament promised to be unlike any other. The announcement had echoed through the galaxies months ago, and alien princes from dozens of worlds had gathered, their ships orbiting the massive gas giant that served as the site of the trials. The arena itself was an engineering marvel: floating platforms suspended over chasms of luminous plasma, holographic projections that could simulate entire cities, and vast open spaces where combat and strategy could be tested simultaneously. Yet, as the day of the first trial approached, a peculiar silence had settled over the contestants. Rumors whispered among the alien delegates. No one would step forward this time. The trials had been designed centuries ago, during a period when the galaxy was less complex, and no one had thought that the challenges would evolve faster than tradition. Many princes hesitated, fearing failure and disgrace. The arena, magnificent though it was, suddenly seemed daunting. In the shadows at the edge of the platforms, a human watched quietly. He was unlike the alien nobles gathered there. His clothing was simple, utilitarian, and his starship bore no insignia of royalty or empire. Captain Elias Vance had come from a human colony on the Outer Rim, a world often dismissed as backward by the older, technologically advanced civilizations of the Coalition. Humans had long been underestimated, their civilizations considered young, their achievements minor. Elias knew this. Yet he also knew that humanity had something few other species possessed: resilience, ingenuity, and a willingness to adapt when circumstances demanded it. Elias had not come seeking glory. He had not been invited by the Coalition, nor had he been trained for these trials. His arrival had been accidental, a twist of fate when his ship had been forced to seek emergency repairs at a nearby space station. When he learned of the Millennium Tournament, curiosity and a spark of daring had propelled him forward. And now, as he stood on the outskirts of the gathering, he could sense the eyes of every alien prince upon him. Whispers followed him. A human, here. Impossible. Could this untested human survive even the first trial? The opening ceremony began in silence, the hum of the arena filling the space between the floating platforms. Holographic lights danced across the surfaces, forming intricate patterns that reflected centuries of history. The Council of Elders, robed in iridescent fabrics that shimmered like the stars, took their positions around the central dais. They recited the traditional oaths, invoking the principles of wisdom, courage, and unity. Aliens of every shape and size watched attentively, their expressions ranging from excitement to apprehension. When the first trial was announced, a labyrinth of floating platforms suspended above a chasm of pulsating energy, tension rippled through the crowd. The trial was simple in concept but deadly in execution. Contestants had to navigate the platforms, each requiring precise timing and calculation. Missteps could send a contestant plummeting into the energy below, a spectacle of failure that would be remembered for generations. The alien princes approached cautiously, their steps hesitant. Some calculated the distance between platforms with elaborate devices, while others relied on instinct honed by centuries of experience. Yet the labyrinth had been subtly altered in ways that disrupted conventional methods. Calculations that should have worked failed, and even the most confident princes found themselves hesitating, unsure of each next move. Elias, standing at the edge of the labyrinth, took a deep breath. He had no device, no ancient lineage, no centuries of training. He only had what he had always relied on: observation, quick thinking, and a steady hand. As he stepped onto the first platform, his mind calculated trajectories and weight shifts instinctively. Each movement was precise, deliberate, yet fluid. While alien princes faltered, Elias moved with determination and clarity. The crowd gasped as one after another, alien princes struggled to maintain balance. Some slid off platforms, their ships ready to retrieve them in disgrace. Others froze entirely, unable to adapt to the unexpected variables embedded in the labyrinth. Elias, however, advanced steadily, his confidence growing with each successful leap. Princess Lyra's eyes followed him closely, noting his calm focus and the subtle way he assessed and adapted to every obstacle. By the end of the trial, Elias had reached the center of the labyrinth first, a feat that stunned both the audience and the council. The aliens who remained were forced to acknowledge his capability, even if reluctantly. Whispers filled the air. Perhaps this human is different. Lyra's curiosity deepened. She had expected hesitation and arrogance from most contestants, but Elias had shown a combination of courage, intelligence, and resourcefulness that none of the alien princes possessed. The second trial, scheduled for the following day, tested courage. Contestants were transported to a virtual battlefield designed to challenge the deepest fears of their minds. Holographic monsters emerged from shadows, illusions so realistic that even the bravest could be paralyzed with fear. Many of the alien princes approached with bravado, but as the trials began, they faltered. Memories of failure, loss, and inadequacy were projected with eerie clarity, forcing participants to confront their own weaknesses. Elias faced the trial with a steady heart. Fear surged within him, but he did not let it control his actions. Instead, he analyzed the illusions, identified patterns, and responded strategically. Where others panicked, he adapted. He dodged, countered, and pressed forward, each movement a demonstration of human determination under pressure. By the time the trial ended, Elias had not only survived but excelled, demonstrating courage and resilience that outshone all others. Princess Lyra watched silently, her interest growing into genuine admiration. Humans had been dismissed as simple and primitive by many civilizations, but this one human challenged every assumption she had been taught. He was not merely surviving, he was innovating, learning, and responding with a combination of instinct and intellect that was remarkable. As the sun, or rather one of the gas giant's multiple luminous stars, set over the arena, the contestants were returned to their ships. The crowd buzzed with speculation. Who was this human? How could someone from a distant, overlooked planet outperform centuries of alien knowledge and experience? Some whispered jealousy, others fascination. But all agreed on one point. The Millennium Tournament had suddenly become unpredictable. Elias, alone in his ship, looked out at the sprawling arena. He knew the trials ahead would become even more complex: the test of wisdom, the test of leadership, and finally, the ultimate decision of the princess herself. He also knew that he would face more than physical or mental challenges. He would face cultural expectations, prejudice, and disbelief. Yet none of this deterred him. He had survived the first two trials through observation, courage, and adaptability, qualities ingrained in every human through centuries of survival and exploration. In the observation deck above the arena, Princess Lyra turned away from the window, deep in thought. Her mind was no longer solely on the trials themselves, but on the human who had defied expectation. Tradition dictated that she consider royal lineage, alliances, and political advantage. Yet something told her that these conventions were inadequate for what was truly required. She wanted a partner who could navigate uncertainty, who could adapt, and who could think beyond rules and precedent. The council of elders deliberated quietly, their voices measured and solemn. They had seen champions rise and fall, empires built and shattered, and yet the presence of a human, a being so underestimated, so untested, challenged the very foundations of their expectations. Some argued that humans were too primitive to succeed in the coming trials. Others, noting his performance, feared underestimating him. A quiet tension lingered in the chamber, an unspoken acknowledgement that history might be rewritten by this unlikely contender. Night fell over the arena, casting the floating platforms in silvery light. The stars above twinkled with a brilliance that reflected centuries of galactic history. Aliens slept uneasily, knowing the trials would continue at dawn. Elias, awake and alert, reviewed every moment of the first two trials, noting strategies and potential adjustments. He did not boast, he did not celebrate, he simply prepared. Humans had always thrived not by expecting certainty, but by facing the unknown with courage and creativity. Princess Lyra, in her private quarters, reflected on what she had witnessed. She had always respected intelligence, bravery, and adaptability, but she had never encountered them combined in a being so fundamentally different from herself. Something stirred within her, a recognition that perhaps the value of a partner was not measured in status or lineage, but in the ability to rise to challenges no one else could overcome. As the twin suns began their ascent over the gas giant the next morning, the arena buzzed with anticipation. Contestants prepared for the next stage, whispers of the human who had defied expectations still echoing through the crowd. Elias stepped onto the platform once more, calm, focused, and ready. The galaxy had underestimated him once. He was determined not to let it happen again. The Millennium Tournament had begun. And for the first time in generations, it seemed the outcome could not be predicted, not by tradition, not by pedigree, and certainly not by the oldest and most powerful empires in the coalition. In the midst of the awe and tension, one truth became clear. The galaxy was about to witness something entirely new. A human had stepped forward, and everything was about to change. The day after the opening trials, the atmosphere in the arena was tense with anticipation. Contestants gathered on the floating platforms, while alien spectators hovered in their ships, observing through shimmering energy shields. The first two trials had shaken the galaxy's expectations. No one had predicted that a human could navigate the labyrinth or confront illusions with such courage. Whispers followed Elias wherever he went, ranging from incredulity to admiration. Even the Council of Elders had begun to reconsider their assumptions about humanity. Princess Lyra watched from her observation chamber, her gaze fixed on the human who had captured the attention of every corner of the galaxy. She could see the other contestants' frustration as they discussed strategy, their voices filled with doubt and worry. Most were still processing their failure in the labyrinth. None had expected a human to outperform centuries of royal training. Some alien princes, proud and haughty, avoided looking at him directly, as if acknowledgement would diminish their own dignity. The second trial was designed to test courage. The council had created a virtual battlefield where contestants would face simulated monsters designed to challenge their deepest fears. The illusions were crafted to feel real, so real that even the bravest could lose their composure. Past champions had occasionally faltered here, paralyzed by visions of personal failure or the deaths of comrades. Elias stood at the edge of the simulation chamber, taking a slow breath. He had studied the trial layout while observing others, noting the subtle ways the council manipulated fear. His strategy was simple: acknowledge the fear, analyze the situation, and act. Humans were not immune to fear, but they had a unique ability to transform it into focus, to see danger as a problem to solve rather than a reason to freeze. The holographic monsters appeared immediately as the trial began. Massive, shadowy figures with glowing eyes surrounded the contestants. The illusions were different for each individual. For some, the monsters represented lost loved ones or their deepest insecurities. For Elias, the simulation conjured scenarios from the human colony he had left behind: collapsing buildings, failing starships, and helpless civilians. He felt a pang of worry, but he recognized it for what it was: a test. While alien princes stumbled or froze entirely, Elias moved with a careful but deliberate pace. He didn't attempt to destroy the illusions; he could not. Instead, he observed their patterns, predicted their movements, and used his agility and spatial awareness to avoid danger. Where others panicked, he remained calm. Where others faltered, he adapted. The alien princes were faltering badly. Many shouted or tried to charge through the illusions without strategy, and each misstep caused the holograms to intensify, feeding off their fear. Some creatures appeared multiple times, forcing the contestants to relive traumatic events. Elias, however, adjusted quickly. He focused on one threat at a time, staying aware of his surroundings while keeping his mind free from panic. Princess Lyra observed silently, impressed by his composure. She had seen many candidates fail in this trial. What made Elias different was not just his skill or agility, it was his mindset. He did not run from fear; he engaged with it, analyzed it, and overcame it. Where others saw impossibility, he saw opportunity. Hours passed. The trial pushed each contestant to their limits. Holographic walls collapsed, monsters changed forms unexpectedly, and gravity fluctuated in pockets, making movement difficult. Several alien princes retreated, citing mental exhaustion or fear. A few collapsed entirely, their minds unable to cope with the pressure. Elias continued forward. Every decision was deliberate, every movement precise. He used his environment creatively, leaping from debris to energy platforms, ducking under falling holographic structures, and timing his actions to anticipate the illusion's attacks. At one point, a monster simulated the death of his closest friend from his human colony, a moment designed to paralyze him. Elias froze for an instant, but then he remembered what had brought him here. Not glory, not recognition, but the chance to prove that humans could rise to challenges no one expected them to face. With renewed determination, he navigated the rest of the battlefield. The holographic monsters dissipated one by one, unable to disrupt his focus. When the trial concluded, Elias emerged from the simulation chamber first, unharmed and composed. The aliens who remained looked on in disbelief. They had seen humans as weak, untested, and fragile, but this one human had survived a trial that had destroyed the minds of the most elite alien princes. Princess Lyra descended to the arena floor to speak with him personally. "You have done well," she said, her voice steady but curious. "Most candidates would have collapsed under even a fraction of that pressure. Tell me, what drives you?" Humans, underestimated by almost every civilization in the coalition, possessed an ingenuity that defied logic and expectation. Elias was living proof. The third trial loomed, the test of wisdom and leadership. Unlike the previous trials, this one would not rely solely on physical skill or courage. Contestants would lead teams composed of various alien species through complex challenges, including resource management, conflict resolution, and negotiation. Past champions had failed here, often because they treated their teams as subordinates rather than partners. Leadership required empathy, strategy, and vision, qualities not measured by intellect or strength alone. Elias approached the trial with calm determination. He understood that humans had long survived by working together, by combining skills, and by respecting differences. Alien species, accustomed to hierarchy and protocol, often struggled to adapt when collaboration was required across cultures. Elias planned to rely on communication, observation, and compromise. He knew that teamwork could overcome obstacles that brute strength or experience alone could not. When the trial began, teams were dropped onto an uncharted planet filled with hazards, shifting terrain, unpredictable weather, and scarce resources. Each team had to gather materials, build shelters, and navigate the landscape while completing specific objectives. Conflicts emerged immediately. Some alien team members argued over strategy, others ignored orders, and several attempted to assert dominance over the weaker participants. Elias approached calmly, observing the personalities and skills of each team member. He quickly assigned tasks based on strengths, mediating disputes before they escalated. He encouraged communication, reminding team members that survival depended on cooperation. Where alien leaders often relied on authority and intimidation, Elias relied on reasoning and encouragement. Slowly, his team began to function as a cohesive unit. One particularly difficult moment arose when a territorial predator, simulated for the trial, attacked their camp. Panic spread among the aliens, but Elias remained composed. He directed the team to create defensive barriers using available resources, leveraging the skills of each member. His quick thinking saved the team from simulated disaster, and the alien participants began to trust him more deeply. As the trial progressed, Elias continued to demonstrate adaptability. He negotiated with rival teams for resources, mediated disputes between alien species with conflicting instincts, and devised creative solutions for unexpected challenges. His leadership was not about asserting control. It was about guiding, inspiring, and drawing the best out of each individual. By the end of the trial, his team had not only completed the objectives, but had done so more efficiently and effectively than any other group. The Council of Elders watched silently, their expressions a mixture of astonishment and respect. Aliens had often underestimated humans, assuming their lack of history and technology meant they were unfit to compete with the great civilizations of the Coalition. Elias had challenged that assumption completely. He had not only survived but excelled in every trial, demonstrating courage, intelligence, and leadership that surpassed centuries of tradition. Princess Lyra, observing from above, felt a growing admiration for the human. His methods were unconventional, his approach simple yet effective, and his ability to inspire cooperation across species was remarkable. He was not merely a contestant, he was a symbol of humanity's potential, a reminder that brilliance could emerge in unexpected forms. The alien princes who remained were visibly shaken. Many had believed that their lineage, training, and experience guaranteed success. Instead, they were forced to witness a human outperform them at every turn. Some felt anger, others disbelief, and a few, grudgingly, respect. Whispers spread across the arena. The human, he might actually succeed. He had proven that humans could stand among the galaxy's greatest civilizations, but the ultimate judgment would come from Princess Lyra herself. Night fell over the arena, the floating platforms glowing softly in the light of distant suns. Aliens rested uneasily, still processing the humans' performance. Humans had been dismissed for centuries, considered primitive and unremarkable, yet Elias had rewritten expectations. He had shown that courage, intelligence, and empathy were qualities that transcended species. Princess Lyra returned to her chambers, contemplating the human who had captivated her attention. She had long known that the Millennium Tournament was about more than tradition. It was about finding someone capable of matching her intellect, vision, and courage. Elias had demonstrated all of these qualities, and more. She realized that, in choosing a partner, she might have to confront her own prejudices and expectations, for this human had already challenged the galaxy's assumptions. Elias prepared for sleep, but his mind was alert, reviewing strategies for the coming trials. He understood that challenges lay ahead, ones designed to test not only skill and intelligence but judgment, morality, and perseverance. Humans had always risen to the unexpected, and he was determined to continue proving that humanity was more than its perceived limitations. As the stars above the gas giant shimmered like a million tiny diamonds, the galaxy began to take notice. One human had stepped forward when no alien would, and in doing so, had begun to change perceptions across civilizations. The Millennium Tournament had entered uncharted territory, and all who watched could sense it. The outcome was no longer predictable. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. That mistake would not be repeated. The morning sun rose over the gas giant's horizon, casting a golden shimmer across the floating platforms of the Millennium Tournament. After completing the first two trials, the contestants had only one challenge remaining before the final judgment of Princess Lyra. The test of wisdom and leadership was widely regarded as the most difficult, the one that separated true champions from mere contenders. It was designed not only to measure intelligence or courage, but to evaluate the ability to inspire, strategize, and adapt in unpredictable circumstances. Elias Vance observed the preparations quietly, standing apart from the other contestants. Alien princes scuttled about, issuing orders to their teams, consulting complex holographic charts, and reviewing centuries of diplomatic strategies. Many of them relied on rigid protocols, expecting that their experience and royal training would be enough to secure victory. They looked at Elias with skepticism and thinly veiled disdain. How could a human, with no formal training and no knowledge of their ancient tactics, possibly succeed where they might fail? Elias understood their doubts. Humans had survived and thrived not through rigid tradition but through flexibility, creativity, and collaboration. He had no intention of following the rules set by alien elites. Instead, he relied on observation, empathy, and the innate human ability to adapt. These qualities had brought him success in the previous trials, and he knew they would be essential for the one that lay ahead. The Council of Elders convened in the central chamber. Each contestant will lead a team composed of multiple species, one elder announced, his voice echoing through the arena. You will navigate an uncharted world, manage scarce resources, and complete the assigned objectives. Strategy, diplomacy, and leadership will be assessed. Failure is possible. Adaptation is required. Begin. Each team was a mix of alien species with different abilities, temperaments, and instincts. Elias' team included a Zelari engineer, a Krathon warrior, and a pair of Sauran mediators, each with unique strengths but varying communication styles. Many of the other contestants struggled immediately, their teams fracturing under disagreement and ego. The first challenge emerged within minutes, a collapsing canyon that the team had to cross in order to reach a resource-rich plateau. The Zelari engineer hesitated, calculating the weight and stability of the bridge they were meant to construct. The Krathon warrior grew impatient, shouting orders aggressively, while the Sauran mediators argued over the ethical implications of leaving weaker species behind. Chaos threatened to derail the team before the first obstacle was completed. Elias stepped forward calmly. "Stop! Listen to me," he said. His voice was steady, not commanding but guiding. "We have a problem. Let's assign tasks based on what each of us does best. If we work together, we can cross safely. Fighting will get us nowhere." He spoke clearly, acknowledging each member's concerns while emphasizing the shared goal. Slowly, the team began to cooperate. The Zelari engineered a stable bridge using nearby materials, the Krathon provided physical strength, and the Sauran coordinated logistics, ensuring no one was left behind. Elias observed and adjusted as necessary, guiding without controlling, listening without judgment. By the time the team reached the plateau, other contestants were still struggling. Some teams had fractured entirely, members arguing and refusing to cooperate. A few alien princes had already withdrawn, their confidence shattered by the complex dynamics of interspecies collaboration. Elias' team, however, moved forward efficiently, achieving objectives that seemed impossible under the circumstances. The next challenge tested resourcefulness. Teams were required to construct sustainable shelters and secure food and water while under pressure from unpredictable weather patterns. The alien princes who relied on rigid protocols struggled to adapt to sudden storms and collapsing structures. Elias, on the other hand, encouraged his team to experiment, combining alien technologies with human improvisation. They created shelters that were both sturdy and mobile, adapting quickly when a sandstorm shifted the terrain. During one particularly dangerous moment, a river of molten metal surged toward their camp, threatening to destroy their supplies. The Krathon warrior panicked, believing retreat was the only option. Elias assessed the situation quickly, noting a narrow passage through the canyon walls. Using a combination of leverage and teamwork, they rerouted the flow and secured the resources. The alien team members began to trust his judgment more fully. For the first time, many of them saw a human not as weak or inexperienced, but as someone capable of navigating complex, high-stakes situations. The trial also included negotiation with rival teams. Resource scarcity and competing objectives forced the contestants to engage in diplomacy. Aliens who were accustomed to coercion and intimidation found themselves outmaneuvered by Elias, who relied on reason, fairness, and creativity. He brokered deals that benefited all parties, demonstrating that cooperation could achieve better results than conflict. Even alien leaders with centuries of experience were forced to acknowledge his skill. Princess Lyra observed the trial with growing admiration. She had seen many contestants fail at leadership, often because they assumed authority rather than fostering cooperation. Elias' approach was different. He led by understanding, by listening, and by inspiring confidence. He had not only completed the objectives but had elevated his team, proving that success depended not on dominance but on collaboration and strategic thinking. As the day wore on, the challenges grew more complex. The planet's terrain shifted unexpectedly, testing navigation skills. Sudden electrical storms threatened equipment, requiring rapid improvisation. Rival teams attempted to sabotage progress, but Elias anticipated potential conflicts, preparing solutions before problems escalated. Each success reinforced his team's trust, creating a synergy that the alien princes could not replicate. By the final hour of the trial, it was clear that Elias' team had achieved more than any other. They had completed all objectives efficiently, maintained cohesion under pressure, and demonstrated strategic foresight. The Council of Elders conferred quietly, recognizing that this human had surpassed expectations in every aspect. Despite his success, Elias remained humble. He did not boast or gloat. He knew that the final judgment would not be based solely on performance in trials, but on character, integrity, and the ability to face the unknown. Still, he could feel the subtle shift in perception among the alien spectators. Humans had long been underestimated, dismissed as primitive or unremarkable. Elias had begun to rewrite that narrative, not through force or arrogance, but through intelligence, courage, and the ability to inspire others. As the sun set over the jagged landscape, Elias and his team returned to the arena's central platform. The alien princes who remained looked weary, some in disbelief, others in grudging respect. The Council of Elders addressed the contestants. The test of wisdom and leadership is complete. Few have succeeded, fewer have excelled. Recognition is due where merit is shown. His combination of courage, intelligence, and empathy was rare, perhaps unprecedented. "You have led well," she said, her voice calm but firm. "You have inspired those who doubted, achieved what others could not, and demonstrated that leadership is more than authority. It is vision, understanding, and trust. Tell me, Elias, what guides your decisions?" "I rely on observation, logic, and empathy. I believe that every individual has strengths, even if others cannot see them. Leadership is not about control. It is about guiding people to achieve together what none could alone." Spectators, alien princes, and even some members of the council could not conceal their astonishment. A human had demonstrated excellence in leadership, a skill traditionally thought impossible for a species considered young and untested. For centuries, humans had been underestimated, their potential overlooked, yet Elias had proven that courage, creativity, and the ability to unite diverse minds were qualities that transcended species. The final ceremony of the Millennium Tournament loomed. The council would present the remaining contestants to Princess Lyra for her ultimate decision. Aliens who had trained for centuries, believing in the inevitability of tradition, now faced the uncomfortable truth that this human had outperformed them in every measurable way. Elias felt no arrogance, only quiet confidence. He had faced each trial with determination and clarity, relying on skills developed through human resilience and ingenuity. He had proven that humans could stand alongside the galaxy's greatest civilizations, not through force, not through entitlement, but through intelligence, courage, and the ability to inspire cooperation. Princess Lyra returned to her chambers that evening, reflecting on the tournament. She realized that the Millennium Tournament had always been about more than tradition. It was about finding someone capable of rising to challenges, someone who could navigate uncertainty and make choices that shaped the future. Elias had not only met these standards, he had redefined them. As night fell over the gas giant, the stars glittered with a brilliance that seemed almost celebratory. Aliens rested uneasily, still grappling with the implications of a human outperforming centuries of tradition. Elias, ever focused, reviewed the trials in his mind, preparing himself for the final moment when the princess would make her choice. The galaxy had begun to notice. A human had stepped forward where no alien would, and in doing so, had demonstrated qualities that demanded recognition. Intelligence, courage, empathy, and leadership were not the exclusive domain of ancient civilizations. Elias had shown that humans, often underestimated, possessed the potential to achieve greatness. The Millennium Tournament had reached its climax, and the galaxy waited in anticipation. Princess Lyra's choice would not only determine the future of the Cyrenian Empire, but would also challenge assumptions that had persisted for centuries. One human had already rewritten the rules of the game. Now, the universe would witness the final judgment and the full measure of humanity's potential. The sun rose over the gas giant's horizon, illuminating the shimmering platforms of the Millennium Tournament arena. The time had come for the final phase, the moment the galaxy had awaited for centuries. For generations, the Millennium Tournament had been a demonstration of skill, courage, intelligence, and leadership, culminating in the princess choosing a partner who would stand by her side. In past tournaments, this decision had often been predictable. A prince from a prominent lineage, trained in tradition and accustomed to protocol. This time, however, the outcome was uncertain. Aliens whispered among themselves, their confidence shaken by the performance of a human who had defied all expectations. Elias Vance, the human from a distant, underestimated colony, had excelled in every trial. He had navigated deadly labyrinths, faced illusions designed to exploit fear, and led a diverse team through impossible challenges. His ingenuity, courage, and empathy had forced even the most skeptical observers to reconsider what humans were truly capable of. Princess Lyra observed the contestants from her elevated chamber, her gaze fixed on Elias. She had watched him through every trial, noting not only his skill but the way he carried himself, calm, focused, and unshaken by the pressure. He did not seek power, glory, or recognition. He acted with integrity, using intellect and empathy to navigate each challenge. She had seen many candidates in her life, many alien princes with centuries of training, yet none had impressed her like this human. The Council of Elders convened for the final ceremony. Their robes shimmered with iridescent light as they addressed the contestants and the gathered spectators. The Millennium Tournament has concluded. Few have succeeded, fewer have excelled. The time has come for Princess Lyra to select her partner. Yet all eyes were drawn to Elias, the human who had rewritten the rules of the tournament. Lyra descended from her chamber, her presence commanding attention. She moved with grace and confidence, her gaze sweeping across the remaining contestants. The silence in the arena was profound, as if the galaxy itself held its breath. Lyra's voice rang clear and steady. The Millennium Tournament is complete. The trials have tested skill, courage, wisdom, and leadership. Every contestant has demonstrated abilities, yet only one has excelled beyond expectation in all aspects. That individual has shown ingenuity, bravery, and character. That individual is. The air seemed to vibrate with anticipation. Many alien princes shifted nervously, unsure how to respond to the possibility that a human, so young, so untested, so underestimated, could be the one chosen. "You have proven yourselves," Lyra continued, her gaze moving over the remaining alien contestants. "But only one contestant has shown the qualities necessary to rise above the challenges of this tournament. That contestant has demonstrated courage in the face of fear, intelligence in the midst of complexity, and leadership that inspires unity rather than control. That contestant is," she extended her hand toward Elias, "Captain Elias Vance." Elias stepped forward calmly, bowing respectfully before Princess Lyra. I am honored," Elias said, his voice steady but humble. "I did not come here seeking recognition or glory. I came to face challenges, to test myself, and to show that humans can rise to any obstacle when we apply intelligence, courage, and cooperation. That is all I have done." His words were honest, free from arrogance, and carried a quiet authority. She had witnessed his actions firsthand and knew the truth in his statement. Elias had not only faced the trials successfully, he had inspired confidence in others, fostered cooperation among diverse species, and demonstrated qualities that no other contestant possessed. "You have exceeded my expectations," Lyra said, "and the expectations of this tournament. You have not only demonstrated skill, courage, and intelligence, but also the character necessary to be a partner. The galaxy has underestimated humans for too long. You have shown what we can achieve when we rise to the challenge." It was a celebration of skill, of courage, and above all of the human spirit. For centuries, humans had been dismissed as primitive, incapable of competing with advanced civilizations. Elias had proven them wrong, showing that determination, intelligence, and empathy could surpass centuries of tradition. The alien princes who had remained until the end were humbled. They had entered the tournament confident in their superiority, certain that lineage and training would guarantee success. Instead, they had witnessed a human outperform them at every stage, demonstrating creativity, adaptability, and leadership that no protocol or ancient strategy could match. Some felt admiration, others struggled with the realization that their assumptions had been flawed. Lyra turned to address the crowd. "This decision is not merely a matter of tradition or expectation. It is a recognition of ability, courage, and character. Captain Elias Vance has shown qualities that are rare, perhaps unprecedented. He has proven that humans, often underestimated, are capable of greatness." The Millennium Tournament had been a cornerstone of galactic tradition for centuries, yet this moment would be remembered as a turning point. A human, previously dismissed by countless civilizations, had demonstrated excellence across every measure, earning the respect of the galaxy and the hand of a princess renowned for her wisdom. Elias approached Lyra, bowing once more. "I accept this honor with gratitude," he said, "but I do so not for myself alone. Humans have long been underestimated. This is proof that we can rise to challenges, not through power or status, but through courage, intelligence, and collaboration." Across the galaxy, species who had doubted humanity now recognized its potential. Humans had earned a place among the most capable civilizations, not through conquest, but through merit and character. The Council of Elders acknowledged the choice with solemn nods, their earlier skepticism replaced with respect. The audience erupted into applause, cheering not only for the human and the princess, but for the triumph of courage, intelligence, and perseverance over expectation and prejudice. In the days following the ceremony, the galaxy buzzed with discussion. Stories of Elia's achievements spread rapidly, inspiring humans and aliens alike. Humans were no longer dismissed as weak or primitive. They had demonstrated that ingenuity, empathy, and determination could overcome even the most formidable obstacles. Many species began to reassess their assumptions, recognizing that the measure of a civilization was not in age or technology alone, but in the character and capability of its people. Princess Lyra and Elias began their partnership with a shared vision. They traveled the coalition, promoting cooperation, exploration, and mutual respect among species. Elia's human perspective brought fresh solutions to old problems, combining logic, creativity, and empathy to unite disparate civilizations. Together, they worked to ensure that the galaxy embraced collaboration over conflict and innovation over stagnation. Elias never forgot the journey that had brought him here. He remembered the labyrinth, the simulated battlefield, and the uncharted planet, each trial a step toward proving humanity's potential. He remembered the doubt of alien princes and the astonishment of spectators. And he understood that his success was not merely personal. It represented the possibility of a future where humans were recognized for their capabilities, their courage, and their ingenuity. Princess Lyra observed him with quiet pride. She had chosen wisely, selecting a partner not for status or lineage but for character, intelligence, and vision. Elias had proven that true strength was measured not by heritage or wealth but by action, resilience, and the ability to inspire others. Together, they represented a new chapter for the Cyrenian Empire and for humanity itself. The galaxy watched as a new era began. Humans, once underestimated, had claimed a place among the stars through merit and courage. The story of Captain Elias Vance became legend, a tale repeated in classrooms, council chambers, and across starship bridges. It was a story of determination, ingenuity, and the triumph of character over expectation. As Elias and Lyra stood together on the platform overlooking the gas giant, the stars reflected in their eyes, the message was clear. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and opportunities, and humans had proven they could rise to meet them. One human had stepped forward when no alien would, and in doing so, had changed the course of history. The Millennium Tournament had ended, but the journey had only begun. Humanity's place among the stars was no longer in question. The galaxy had learned a lesson that would echo through generations. Courage, intelligence, and heart are not confined by species, and greatness can emerge from the most unexpected of places. Elias looked out at the horizon, feeling the weight of history and the promise of the future. He had faced trials that tested mind, body, and spirit, and had emerged victorious not because of privilege or expectation, but because he embodied the qualities that defined humanity at its best. He had proven that humans could achieve the extraordinary, and in doing so, he had inspired the galaxy to reconsider its assumptions about what was possible. Princess Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "Together," she said softly, "we will guide the galaxy into a new era, one of cooperation, understanding, and progress. You have shown me that courage and intelligence, when combined with empathy, can reshape the universe." The Millennium Tournament had concluded, but for Elias Vance and Princess Lyra, the journey was just beginning. The galaxy had witnessed something unprecedented. A human, once considered insignificant by most civilizations, had stepped forward when no alien would, and had proven himself worthy not only of the Cyrenian princess's respect, but of a partnership that could shape the future of countless worlds. Now, as Elias and Lyra prepared to navigate the responsibilities of their newfound status, they understood that their actions would ripple across the galaxy. Elias returned to the Cyrenian capital with Lyra, stepping onto streets that had long been dominated by alien culture and tradition. Citizens gathered, their faces a mix of awe and curiosity. Some had doubted humanity entirely, while others had secretly admired human resilience from afar. Now, the perception of humans had changed dramatically. A being from a planet considered remote and primitive had proven intelligence, courage, and leadership on a level unmatched by many of the galaxy's most powerful species. The Council of Elders convened once more to formally recognize Elia's accomplishments. The chamber, filled with representatives from dozens of worlds, erupted in applause and respectful acknowledgement as he entered. Even the most skeptical elders had been convinced of the human's worthiness. Elias bowed respectfully, his modesty as remarkable as his achievements. Unlike many leaders, he sought not personal glory, but to demonstrate humanity's potential and to contribute to a larger vision of cooperation and progress. Princess Lyra stood beside him, her presence a steady support. "Captain Vance," she said, addressing the council, "has not only excelled in every trial but has shown qualities that will guide our empire and inspire the galaxy. Courage, intelligence, and empathy, these are the traits that will shape the future." Human ingenuity, born from survival against harsh conditions and relentless curiosity, had been revealed in full. As the weeks passed, Elias and Lyra traveled through the Cyrenian Empire, meeting leaders, scientists, and diplomats from other worlds. Every encounter reinforced the lesson the galaxy had learned. Humans could think creatively, adapt quickly, and unite diverse groups toward shared goals. In negotiations that had once been tense and fraught with misunderstanding, Elias' human perspective brought clarity and innovative solutions. Alien leaders who had doubted his abilities were compelled to acknowledge the unique contributions humanity could offer. One such journey took them to the Carrion Nebula, a cluster of star systems plagued by resource disputes. Generations of negotiation had failed to create lasting agreements, as rival species relied on old grudges and rigid rules. Elias studied the situation carefully, observing each party's motivations and fears. He proposed a solution that combined human practicality with empathy for alien customs, a shared resource management system that balanced access, security, and responsibility. At first, Carrion leaders were skeptical. Could a human truly understand their culture and needs? Elias did not rely on rhetoric. He demonstrated understanding through action. He arranged workshops, facilitated communication between species, and guided collaborative planning sessions. Within days, tension eased and agreements were formalized. The Carrion Nebula, once on the brink of conflict, now had a path to cooperation, all thanks to a human who refused to be underestimated. Back on Cyrenia, Lyra and Elias began restructuring aspects of the Millennium Tournament itself. The trials had always been a test of skill, courage, and intellect, but the lessons Elias had taught the galaxy extended beyond the competition. Lyra suggested incorporating challenges that emphasized collaboration, adaptability, and creativity, qualities that humans had demonstrated so effectively. The Council of Elders embraced the idea, recognizing that the future of the Empire and the galaxy depended on valuing merit and potential over tradition alone. Meanwhile, Elias continued to inspire humans across the coalition. Messages from distant colonies poured in, expressing pride and hope. Humans, long dismissed and marginalized, were now seen in a new light. The idea that they were fragile, insignificant, or incapable was being replaced with respect and recognition. Children from remote planets looked to Elias as proof that intelligence, courage, and perseverance could change history. The story of Elias' achievements spread quickly, becoming a legend retold in countless star systems. In classrooms, young students learned how a single human had risen to the occasion when centuries of tradition had expected failure. In council chambers, diplomats referenced his strategies as examples of leadership and negotiation. Across starship fleets, humans were recruited for missions that once would have been denied to them, valued for their adaptability and creativity. Despite the attention, Elias remained focused on the work ahead. He understood that one human's success did not guarantee recognition for all humans. Effort and collaboration were still necessary to ensure that the galaxy truly embraced the value of every species. Lyra supported him fully, offering guidance, wisdom, and insight into the complex workings of interstellar politics and culture. Together, they became a formidable team, balancing human ingenuity with Cyrenian tradition. One day, while observing a bustling marketplace in the Cyrenian capital, Elias reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He remembered the labyrinth of floating platforms, the terrifying illusions of the second trial, and the uncharted planet where he had led a team of diverse aliens. Every step had been a test, not only of skill but of humanity's capacity to rise above expectation. He had relied on observation, courage, empathy, and adaptability, qualities that had allowed him to overcome challenges that seemed impossible. Princess Lyra approached him, her eyes reflecting the light of the twin suns. "You have changed the galaxy," she said softly. "Not just through your victories, but through your example. You've shown that courage and intelligence, combined with empathy, can reshape even the most rigid systems. That is the most important thing." New alliances were formed, and humanity's reputation shifted from marginal observer to respected contributor. In the Cyrenian capital, festivals celebrated the success of the Millennium Tournament and the recognition of human potential. Citizens from countless worlds attended, eager to witness history and pay homage to the human who had dared to step forward when no alien would. Statues were commissioned, stories were recorded in archives, and the tale of Elias Vance became a foundational legend for generations to come. Elias, however, remained grounded. He did not seek personal acclaim. He sought to inspire others, to demonstrate that potential could be realized through courage, intelligence, and empathy. He visited human colonies across the galaxy, encouraging young pioneers, engineers, and explorers to challenge expectations and push beyond limitations. He shared lessons learned from the trials, emphasizing the importance of observation, collaboration, and adaptability. Lyra accompanied him on many journeys, their partnership strengthening with each challenge. Together, they represented a fusion of human ingenuity and Cyrenian tradition, proving that greatness could emerge when diverse perspectives and abilities were combined. Their leadership inspired not only humans but countless alien species, reinforcing the idea that true progress required cooperation and mutual respect. As decades passed, the story of Elias Vance and the Millennium Tournament continued to inspire. Humans expanded their presence among the stars, participating in missions, research, and governance alongside the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. The perception of humanity had shifted irrevocably. No longer dismissed as primitive, humans were recognized for their courage, intelligence, creativity, and capacity for leadership. Elias often reflected on the lessons he had learned. Success was not guaranteed by heritage, technology, or tradition. It was achieved through courage in the face of fear, ingenuity in the face of complexity, and the ability to inspire cooperation among diverse minds. These qualities, embodied in one human during the Millennium Tournament, had altered the course of history and opened new possibilities for countless species across the galaxy. Princess Lyra, standing beside him as they looked out over the stars, recognized the truth in his actions. "You have changed everything," she said. "Not just for humans, but for all of us. You've shown that greatness is not measured by lineage or expectation, but by action, courage, and heart. There will always be challenges, new frontiers, and new opportunities to prove ourselves. Humans will rise to meet them, not because we are told we can, but because we refuse to accept limits." The Millennium Tournament had ended, but the legacy of one human stepping forward when no alien would endure. Across the galaxy, species looked to the example set by Elias Vance, inspired to challenge assumptions, embrace collaboration, and recognized that potential could emerge from the most unexpected places. History would remember the human who had dared to step forward, the human who had redefined what it meant to be capable, and the human who had proven that courage, intelligence, and empathy could change the galaxy. Humanity's place among the stars was no longer a question, it was a reality. And in that reality, one human had shown that even the smallest and most underestimated species could leave a lasting mark on the universe. The stars above shimmered brightly, reflecting centuries of history and the promise of the future. Elias and Lyra, standing side by side, represented a new era of cooperation, innovation, and recognition. Together, they had proven that when courage, intelligence, and heart were combined, greatness could be achieved, not by one species alone, but by all who were willing to rise to the challenge. The galaxy had learned a lesson that would endure for generations. Never underestimate the power of determination, ingenuity, and character. One human had stepped forward when no alien would, and in doing so, had changed the course of history forever. The era of underestimation was over, and humanity had finally claimed its place among the stars.